Hey buds, today we take it smooth and easy as we smoke two strains that go with the flow.
We cover a news story that's ongoing, in progress, and you buds can get involved with.
And a conversation with our other resident meme lord, Josh Horsnell.
All this and more today on the Good Buds podcast.
Let's get blended.
Welcome to the Good Buds podcast, the show where good buds smoke good buds and talk about them. I'm Curtis.
I'm Shank.
And this is episode 46, airing Monday, July 19th, 2021 on Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many more. Thank you for joining us.
Before we start, I'd like to thank Lumenspot and My High Shop for sponsoring this episode and all of our other ones before it. Check out their links down below in the description, and we'll talk more about them later. So Curtis, how you doing today, brother?
Oh, well, tits up in a frizzle fram, Crazy-Croft. How about you?
A little bit of the quip squibble, and I hit the hub, and I fell down a little bit of loop done, and I squibbed the bobbadub.
So you also touched the electric fence outside?
Yeah, man, it was really fucking tempting. They really shouldn't have put a neon sign saying "Do not touch." That made me really want to touch it.
I was almost positive it was reverse psychology,
I
and
know.
they just wanted, like a Harvard study,
I know. Yeah. I
Schrodinger's cat! No, it's Schrodinger's stoner.
I know, right? It's like, will they touch the electric fence if it says "Do not touch" with a neon sign? Yes, apparently they will, because both Curtis and I did so.
Fucking Santa Claus.
But, oh man, no, I'm doing great, obviously. Had a really good day, picked up some good weed, it's fantastic. Excited for this episode. It's going to be a fun one.
I'm also doing good. I also got a good strain, and
Yeah.
my nerves are intact.
Absolutely. Well, for the most part, but obviously, before we do get on with the show, which I would love to do, I need to remind the buds at home to go and check out our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Facebook, because on all of these awesome things, we post regularly with behind-the-scenes stuff and some funny content that all the buds at home can check out. They can also hop into our Discord if they feel like it and have some fun conversation there. We check in daily, and we will have some links downstairs for you buds to check out. Make sure you click follow while you're there.
Absolutely. You gotta click follow, you gotta subscribe, you gotta know that, we gotta know that you like what we're doing. Fucking let us know what we can do to change, and just show some support. If you want us to show some support even more than that, you can go to our Patreon page and donate there. We have several tiers that you can choose from, including behind-the-scenes content exclusive for Patreon, and the ability to listen in on the show live. Again, links are down below. It starts as low as $1, and if you do, you can join our other awesome patrons, such as Mr. Isaac and Mr. Benji Bills. We love our patrons. We love all of our buds.
We do.
But it's platonic, though. We have
It's true. But we do absolutely love you buds at home. We can't say how much we appreciate our Patreons. We also appreciate all of you buds who like, comment, and subscribe on our videos and our podcasts wherever you find them, because every like helps, and it's a free way to help out. So, yeah, definitely appreciate it. What do you say we get on with the reviews, though, Curtis?
I think we shall.
Good Buds Review, Good Bud.
So, Curtis, what are you burning today for the buds at home?
Well, Shank, just like you said at the beginning, all blended up, no place to go. I am smoking some smoothie.
Nice.
Smoothie.
Smoothie?
I'm pretty sure it's just smoothie, but it's spelled with a Z, so smoothie.
That's what makes it edgy.
Exactly. It sounds like someone's just smooth.
Yeah, it's like smoothie.
You've been struck by a smooth criminal.
Ow!
But this smoothie it's weird. It's a hybrid strain that's mainly indica dominant. It's 70% indica, 30% sativa, roughly. And this was a hard strain to trace its origins in particular, as it's shown up in the UK under Dying Breed Seeds. It's shown up in California by the original Z. It's shown up even by a company that's called Smoothie that sells seeds, including a seed that's called the original Smoothie, as well as other ones like passion fruit, pineapple, and shit like that, yada yada. A whole bunch of weird ones. Pretty cool website, though. Check them out. But none of that really matters, because clear the confusion. What I am smoking on today is by Fuego Genetics, here in Detroit, in Michigan.
Hell yeah.
And it is a cross of blueberry and somango. By crossing those two By crossing those two strains, we get this beautiful hybrid that is tested at over 20% THC. so pretty good
Nice.
there. And
Nice.
this strain that I have, oh my god, these nugs are huge.
Huge.
These nugs are huge.
Huge
They are
nugs.
big, bulbous nugs with a nice solid stem throughout. I'm not gonna do that.
No, or no.
But seriously, these are some big ass fucking nugs.
Nice.
They're semi-soft, but they still break up into quite a lot of bit. So
Same.
they're like dense but soft. Oh,
I mean, I mean about me
okay. Okay.
as a person.
Bet. So the color is a chartreuse color all throughout the bud, and it has these patches of bolder, deeper greens, kind of like a clover color.
Nice.
So kind of just patching through everywhere. There are these hair. There are hairs on it, but it's very light, both in amount and the actual color. The color's like a very white, creamy orange, and it just sprinkled ever so slightly. However, it does have a very decent crystal coating all around the outside with triangle trichomes structure that just kind of patches all of the leaves and the solid budsy parts and just makes it look sparkly and nice.
Nice.
But on top of the look of this, we also have an aroma
Oh,
to
the
judge.
aroma. Check the smell.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. So it's a very clean and berry scent. It has now with clean as usual, it kind of has that slight chemical cleaner smell to it. Like, you walk into a hospital and it's like, okay, this is extremely clean. They have to keep this place
Sanitized.
sterile, sanitized. That's what it smells like. But on top of that, it also has this very sweet berry scent up with it, very upfront. And the berry scent definitely lingers after I pull the bag away from my nose.
Yeah.
Kind of lingers there for a couple seconds. Very nice. Now, I don't know why, but at the very end, it also smells a tiny bit like melon, like watermelon or a fresh honeydew. But I just
Interesting.
kind of get like that little bit of melon with berry and cleaner and.
Honey, do you smell anything weird here?
Oh, I'm not really sure, dear.
I'm not sure here. Now that's weird though, like a melon scent on the end of it. That's kind of strange, but interesting.
Exactly. But I'm definitely interested to see how that smoothie hits me.
Well, I
Hopefully
know
it's
I
a
like
very
melon in my
smooth
smoothies,
drink.
right? So I mean, that makes sense.
I
Yeah,
like
makes sense.
melon and berries.
Yeah,
And chemicals.
and
But
chemicals.
Shank, how about how about your strain? What are you gonna be smoking for the buds
Well,
today?
this week I'm going to be burning on some Ebb and Flow. The Ebb and Flow is grown by Reef Organic Cannabis out of Nova Scotia, actually, which is fantastic. Now, there, just like yours, there's not very much readily available information about its genetics. I think it's one of those proprietary in-house strains that they make, and they just don't really want to tell you how to make it yourself if you want to.
Right.
But the really cool thing about it is it has almost a 2-to-1 CBD to THC ratio, which is pretty nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And its terpene profile, I got that, includes ocimene, limonene, caryophyllene, guaiacol, and pinene, which is pretty cool. And it does have a pretty decent percentage of THC. I believe this one comes in at roughly about 17 to 18% THC. So
Hell yeah.
not bad at all. Now, one thing I love about it is it's a hybrid strain, and it's leaning a little bit more towards the indica side. Not very much, though. It is close enough that they decided to call it a true hybrid. But it leans a little bit more towards the indica side, especially when it comes to its aesthetics, which I love because that means I have some dark, tight, and beautiful nugs here.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're not nearly as rugged as they were last week. Like, they don't have that hippie quality to them, but they still have a nice untamed look that piques my interest. The darkness of the nugs and the mute color of the red hair that's on it, though, kind of hides the red hair from plain sight, so you don't see an awful lot of it when you look at the nug. It looks mostly just like kind of a dark brownish kind of nug. But it has an excellent coat of crystal on the outside of it that makes it shimmer really beautifully, and it almost makes me tingle. You know? You get those tingles.
Nice.
but the smell, though, the smell hits home, too, because I do like this. Okay. One more. There we go. But it's got an almost like salty sweet tarts. Like it's got a very kind of sugar candy sweet tart kind of scent, but it gets like a salty kind of scent on top of it almost. There's a bit of a flowery and peppery overtone, but nothing super, super noticeable. And there's like a bit of a citrus feel, like in the sinuses, but nothing that makes you go, wow, this is citrusy. It's just kind of like, yeah, I've got that vibe. Like I just smelled an orange, like, and the rest of the orange scent is gone, but it's left that kind of like acidity behind, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which is it's nice. I like that little bit of acidity there. And it does also in the back of the scent have a nice little bit of a woody or mushroomy kind of umami scent, which is really cool and almost gives me a lightly cushy vibe. You know, like it almost has
Nice.
like it might have some kush hidden in there as one of the strains that it was crossed with. And frankly, I'm super super excited to try this out. You know, I can't wait to.
Absolutely. Can't
But
wait to try mine as well.
yeah, but before we do try them out, I have to remind the buds at home of something that I always remind them of, which is to check out our Instagram if they haven't already been on there, and if they're not already watching our awesome YouTube videos. I mean, look at this. This is glorious. You know, they can see the strains floating behind our heads on YouTube, but if they feel like just doing the audio thing and going and seeing the strains on another source, they can hit Instagram at Good Buds Podcast, where we post weekly pictures of all these strains and some behind the scenes content for you buds that you can check into. And, you know, make sure you give it a follow there because we will be sharing information about upcoming streams and everything else through our Instagram and our Facebook. So just check out those nugs there.
Exactly. And if you want a little bit more pictures or some shit like that coming across your feed, you can check out my Instagram at GoodBudsCurtis, where I post, random bong hits or behind the scenes, editing of the podcast or video for YouTube podcast shit.
Yeah, no, he does take some
Yeah.
monster bong hoots on there. I love it. I like it. You know, like it's I love checking out his stuff. But also, you can check my page out at Good Buds Shank, where I post random pictures of me smoking joints or blunts or bongs, and you know, working on music or other miscellaneous artsy crap. And yeah, we'd love if you'd go check that out at Good Buds Podcast, at Good Buds Curtis, and at Good Buds Shank. Give us a follow while you're there because you don't want to miss out on any regular updates that we do. But that said, I think it'd
It
be a
is
good time to try something, eh?
absolutely. I have a bong packed right here.
And I have a bong packed right here.
And hopefully the buds at home, you have your bongs packed, your bowls packed, your joints rolled, your blunts rolled, your vapes ready, your rigs ready, edibles. Probably should have taken those at the beginning, but take them
Yeah.
now if you
Yeah,
haven't.
eat them
Let
now.
us toke shkaboke. Please it.
Ooh. Okay.
Ooh,
Hey, Curtis, how's that taste for you, man?
All right. So, okay, interesting enough. So it started with, and I'm saying like in 1 second, like the second it hit my tongue,
Yeah.
it tasted like a firework went off.
What?
Like the gunpowder, the char, the sulfury, like a firework went off, and you kind of get like a little bit of that smoke in your face.
Did you feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind before that?
Shut the fuck up. So it actually tasted really fucking awesome because 4th of July was recent and America. So yeah, it was very nice. But after that, it immediately switches to a to the clean, cleaner and berry flavor that was very prominent in the scent. Obviously,
Nice.
again, it was more berry than anything else, and the berry definitely lingered a little bit longer. It filled up the lungs nicely, and it kind of burned the lungs a little bit, but not too bad. And I'm definitely feeling like in the back of the throat. I don't really know what that's all about. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take another hit and then take a drink. But Shank, how is that fucking strain hitting you?
Well, the ebb and flow is actually really, really great. It has a very salty, sweet, and smoky flavor, but it's not really powerful. It isn't a strong flavor. It's got maybe a little bit of a peppery, kind of spicy hit and a little bit of a wood smoke. But it is, like, again, it's not very bold flavored. I taste the smoke more than anything. It's not at all a bad flavor. I want to get that, make that very clear. By no means am I saying this is a bad flavor. It's just not an abundant flavor. There's not a lot of taste there. But it's good. It's not terrible. I would like to try it in another context, but before we do, obviously, we need to find out some information about these strains, right?
Of course, we got to figure out how it's making other stoners feel online by reading their opinions, which are online, and we're going to give our opinions to the online as we are stoners online.
Opinions.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
the smoothie, from surprisingly enough, it's hard to trace the origins, but relatively easy to find reviews.
Nice.
It's a heady, cerebral buzz. Very, kind of expect a hazier state of mind per se.
Yeah.
It has a strong physical, relaxing high, kind of couch locking, and it's basically almost ideal for anxiety and before bed sessions. So for the restless insomniacs out there, fucking
Hey,
smoke this at 12 o'clock, and hopefully you'll be in bed by 3:30.
our people.
Our, pe- our peeps, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get to bed by 6 in the morning. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have any dry mouth or anything like that stated. But like I said, I did take a drink because I got beds nearby. I got snacks nearby. We were prepared.
Big truth.
Think. How about yours?
Well, same as yours again. I couldn't find a lot of information about its parentage, but I could find a lot of really good review information about it. Because it's a high CBD strain, it's very good for pain, relaxing, and it's also apparently a very good uplifting and focusing strain, which I always like. It's also been described by many people as a happy strain, which is interesting. I like happiness. Who doesn't like happiness? So that's kick ass. And as far as I can see, there are no reports of munchies, but there are some reports of dry mouth, which, just like yourself, I have beverage directly next to me, and
On top of
yeah,
being prepared for other stuff, I also have a joint rolled right here.
that's true. Hey man, we are prepared. Look at us. We are. What is it?
Seasoned
Seasoned
stoners,
stoners, garlic powder.
garlic powder.
Hell
Damn
yes.
right.
Seasoned stoners, garlic phone. Damn it. But no, I have a joint right here too, man.
Well, now that we have these joints, we need to take a little dry hit before we light these and see if we can get a little extra flavor profile.
Good Budz ASMR moments.
Oh shit!
I'm just-
Dry.
Okay, Curtis, what
Go
are
with
you
it.
doing?
Go with it.
Okay,
Go with
okay,
it. Dry.
Mm.
No way it fell in the fucking can.
Dude, come on, just get.
Okay, no, it did. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
No, man, Curtis. So how's that tasting for you, man?
Shit.
Oh man, that sucks.
How about you?
Good actually. It's got a little bit of a mushroomy kind of umami flavor. A little kind of hint of that carophyllene, which I think gives it that little bit of a grassy kind of flavor as well. It's nice, man. Pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, mine is that sweet berry flavor.
Yeah, nice, man. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, that's how it tastes when it's dry. Your sweet berry flavor, that's always good. You get the nice little sweet berry taste on it and everything else. But as Curtis always says, joints are made for one thing, right?
Exactly. They are meant to stir soup in the morning.
That's right. Oh, I was gonna say they're meant to bend so that we can use locomotion in our human body, right?
I was gonna say use them as tiny boomerangs, so that way we can send messages to our, loved ones.
Hell yes.
But on top of that, you can also blaze with them because it's 420 somewhere. Hopefully, you have your joints rolled, your blunts rolled, your bongs packed, bowls packed, vapes ready, ricks ready, edibles cut. Could have
Yeah,
been
we
a
already
little bit
gave
ago,
you,
but
we already gave you a heads
you
up.
you can do it again. It don't matter. We don't give
Yeah,
a
eat
fuck
another
at this
one. I
point.
mean, if it hasn't kicked in, eat another one. You'll be gone by the end of the episode.
Exactly, and you know it is time to blaze it. Tok tok shkaboke.
Wow.
Whew.
Wowie wow. Okay, there's that flavor. So Curtis, how's yours hitting you?
Not as good as the bong, but I'm still getting a little bit of the fucking. I'm still getting a little bit of the berry flavor and a little bit of that cleanliness flavor. I'm definitely getting a lot more of a cushy, skunky kind of taste as well. Kind of like a little bit more of the crystals burning, more pure, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's just I don't know. I prefer it in the bong, but it's not bad. It's nice. It's definitely a lot smoother and a lot less harsh on the lungs.
Still burning through
It's
the
still-
the zigzags.
Oh yeah, zigzags, orange pack, 1 1/4, as
Oh, yeah.
always. And how about you, sir?
Obviously burning through the OCBs, and this flavor though, man, the flavor popped out finally. It's really great. That first initial hit that I took off of it gave me a very, very punchy, wood smoky kind of flavor, like almost like a hickory wood smoke.
Hickory dickory dock.
Yeah, hickory dickory dock with a very sweet, kind of salty flavor. It had
Oh,
like
that's
almost
kind of like
yeah,
caramel.
yeah, it's almost like caramel, yeah, or like yeah, but it's I can see why they named it like ebb and flow. They kind of named it after the in and out of the tides because it does give me that kind of sea salty kind of vibe. It's almost like it reminds me of like that the woody is like a driftwood, you know, it's like woody and salty, and like it's
That
got
wasn't
like a
the
really
characters from Toy Story.
I know that they were buzzed though.
Hey,
Hey, Lamau.
you got a friend with weed.
You got a
Got
friend
a
with
friend
weed.
with weed.
Whenever
Alright.
you're stoned and you need to smoke more, well, you got a friend with weed. But no, it's really fucking, it's good, man. Honestly, I do get that. It's giving me beach vibes. I feel like I should be sitting on a piece of driftwood, roasting a marshmallow over a fire that I made with driftwood. You know what I mean?
Just sitting, cooking firewood or cooking the marshmallow and just looking down at it, going, "You're next." If I need
Exactly,
more, I'll
right?
stand.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, if I need more wood to burn, I'll stand up. Yeah, but honestly, it is very, very flavorful. I also noticed that when I lit it, my lighter took me two flicks again, so it's probably gonna need replacing pretty soon.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're going to be gone, lighter. Get
So-
another lighter.
Actually, that kind of gives me into a nice little conversation because I had nothing else to talk about really because my week was nothing. But
Nice. I had
um,
a boring
this is a
week,
quick-
but exciting at the same time. Stupid stuff no
Exactly.
one wants to hear about.
same. So for the buds at home, this is an interactive little bit for you.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of lighter do you use?
Yeah.
Do you go for A, cheap disposable lighter that you can turn into a massive super crack lighter? B, a standard Bic. 3,
Yeah, 3.
a clipper, the clipper lighter.
Clippers are bitching.
4, go straight to the blowtorch because fuck that bitch regardless of it, or you're
True.
a dabber.
Yeah, we burning that.
5, you don't use a lighter, you just do something else, like, using magnifying
They
glasses.
use a magnifying glass, rub two sticks together,
Exactly.
some
Fucking-
shit like that.
And then obviously number 5B.
I think I think that's 6 because 5 was the 5 was the
So
ending.
G is
How about this?
It's
Budz?
gonna
We'll
be
make,
you, vape.
we'll make it even easier. Rather than picking from a list of options, why don't you just let us know downstairs in the comment section, wherever you're reading this, just comment down below and say, hey, this is what I use for a lighter. If you buds are interested, I use a Zippo, I use a hemp wick, whatever. Just comment down below. That'd be so much
don't
easier.
use the Zippo.
Yeah, please don't. Unless you're lighting like a joint, and even then, just
I mean, yeah, you
Yeah.
could
only if it's really windy, and even then get a torch.
at that point.
Like, yeah, if you're in the Navy, like why ain't you using a torch by now, man? Zippos are
Well,
okay.
mind you, I mainly use a bong, and if you've ever tried to use a Zippo on a bong,
No,
It's
all you're
trash.
doing is sucking in lighter fumes, like lighter
That-
fuel fumes.
it's straight that.
Yeah,
You might get a
butane
little
fumes.
light, but it's nothing.
Yeah, no, straight up. I know, like, I remember one time my buddy had he filled his Zippo because he was a strict Zippo guy. He's like, oh, I only use Zippos because they're the only lighter that a real man uses. And I was like, cool, buddy, sure. He was lighting. He had bought a new glass pipe, right? And fucking, we were smoking some bowls in the woods, and I had my standard Bic because that's what I use. I use standard Bic, man. They're reliable. They're there for a reason. And so, I mean, if they disappear, they're cheap. But anyway, he had just refilled his Zippo, and the bowl got back around to him, and he went to go he lit the Zippo, and he went to go tilt it over to use his Zippo to light the pipe, and rather than doing the smart thing, which would be turning the pipe, everybody goes, okay, you turn the pipe a little bit so you can keep the Zippo kind of
Right.
upright, or whatever. No, dude, straight up just tilted the Zippo sideways like it was a Bic. Bunch of
Whereas-
lighter fluid poured out of the bottom and out from around the actual wick and in the basin because it
Yeah.
hadn't fully absorbed in the cotton yet. Whole bunch of lighter fluid poured out, went all over his hand and the bowl, lit on fire immediately because it was already burning when it came out, caused him
course.
to drop the bowl and his Zippo. The Zippo was fine. The bowl shattered immediately. and he was super pissed, and he got some bad burns on his left hand there and everything else, and he was pissed off and everything. And I was like, man, there's probably a real good reason why, back in the day they used to use matches, even when Zippos existed and lighters were commonplace. matches were, or like at least some form of burning wood or something was the way to light a pipe, like a tobacco pipe. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a reason why they would take a flame like a candle or something else, and rather than tilting the gas lamp, they would burn the stick and then use the stick to light the tobacco. It's because if you don't, you're pouring fucking flammable liquid everywhere.
Exactly.
Or at
So,
least risking
and
it.
obviously now we're in modern times where we got like disposable Bics and disposable regular lighters.
Straight
So
up.
it's easy as fuck to use one of those. So yeah, I learned early on never use a Zippo. Just rather get a use a Bic or something like that. I would rather, or it usually just tilt it on the side, burn my thumb, or
Yeah.
fucking some stupid shit like that.
Oh,
So
I know. Like the
I
amount of
learned
times I
early
burned
on
myself
use a
with a
Bic,
Zippo.
a clipper, a torch, anything else but
Yeah.
Zippo.
Back
Other
back
than
when I
Bic.
like back when I was younger and I just like I smoked like cigarettes and stuff like that, having a Zippo around was always cool for like the fucking Zippo tricks. Like, you know, like
Oh yeah.
flicking it open, looking all like James Dean, like and like lighting it and some shit and being cool.
I had I
And
had
like
two
yeah.
Zippos in particular, and I would always carry one or the other.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and I mean they're cool and they're a good lighter and they have their uses and everything else and stuff like that. But as far as survival torches go, or like as far as survival lighters go, the Zippo has been outpaced massively by modern torch lighters. Like, you
Even
know, like
then, they even have those fucking infinite like stick shits now,
mm,
like those
yeah,
stick
the permanent
lighters.
matches. Yeah, the permanent matches. Basically, it's like you literally just have a little phosphorus, like a little flint and steel, basically on them, and they've got a piece of cotton that you dip into a reservoir of fuel, pull it out, flick it, then it
And
lights.
no matter what, it'll
Yeah,
stay lit for
yeah, and
like
then
a
yeah.
long time.
Oh yeah, long ass time, and then you just stick it back in the container. It goes out automatically because there's no air in there, you know, and then fucking screw it back on, permanent, boom. Like, you know, you can use it over and over and over and over and over. And if the cotton ever wears out, you can always just stuff a piece of paper or something else in there in a survival situation, right? So that's the
If
like I
you
mean,
really, really, really need to smoke your fucking weed,
hmm
those are the
I would
emergency.
love to see somebody pull that out. I remember years ago I was at a store in the mall that was temporarily there. You know those little pop up shops that fucking
Yeah,
appear in every fucking mall every now and then.
yeah.
Well, one of them popped up and it was like an antique thing. Like it was like this family that was getting together and they had like we're having basically an estate sale for what obviously was a hoarder, because they had so much of everything. And I went in
Right.
there, and the dude had a lighter collection, like a collection of old lighters. Now we're not talking nice lighters. We're not talking like he had like, you know, a $10,000 light Zippo or but
No, these were like
we're talking just
ru-
you see it at a yard sale and it looks kind of cool, even if it's a rusted piece of shit. You grab it, right?
rusted, kind of used
Yeah,
Zippos.
exactly. Like he wasn't like the collector, like, oh, I need pristine this or that or anything like that. But he had one lighter there that immediately piqued my interest, and it was an old Navy lighter, and it was really cool because it ran on the same principle as a Zippo, except it was an enclosed system. So it had like an enclosed reservoir, and it had a wick coming out of it. And instead of on a top that opened on it, it had a lever that you would push down, and when you pushed the lever down, it would rotate the wheel to grind the flint, and it would lift a cap up that was covering the wick. So it
Right.
had like a little, and it was all brass. So like a little cap that was covering the wick, like a little circular cap, would lift up at the same time as the flint wheel would spark the flint, and it would light the wick. And all you did was like let go of the button, almost like a
And it
Bic
all did it
lighter,
at once.
and it
Right.
just and it would close the cap back off, and you know, and I saw that there, and I was like, I need that lighter. So $2.50 I bought it, and I brought it home, and it was I looked it up. It was an antique. It was an old French, like I said, it was a Navy lighter, and all I had to do to get it working again was throw a new flint into it. I went out and I bought some flints. I opened
Easy
it
peasy.
up, put a new flint into it, put some fluid into it, and it immediately worked. And I carried that around for a little while until one of my buddies was in love with it, and he was moving away. And so I decided to give it to him as a going away gift, you know, and stuff like that. He wasn't going to be coming back, so I told him, you know, take this. I was like, whenever you light a joint with it, think about me, that kind of thing. And so I gave it away. But it was definitely an awesome thing to have. And that, if I could have that lighter back or that kind of lighter, I would use that over a Bic, man, just because the classy factor,
Oh yeah.
like the extra class. And it was a small wick too. It wasn't like a big broad wick like a Zippo because it wasn't windproof. Like, you know how, like, you know, Zippos have that big old wick and they have the big old screen around them because they're made to be more windproof, right? Well,
Right.
the antique lighter I had wasn't windproof. You had to like block it with your hand, otherwise it could easily blow out. But that also meant that the flame was more controllable because it was on a tiny little wick nub. So if you wanted to light a bowl with it, or you wanted to light like a pipe, or you wanted to, whatever, it would work perfect for it because there was no way fluid was gonna leak out. It would
Right.
just like because it was just the tiny little itty bitty hole where a nub of a wick came out. So it was really cool, man. Like that was a neat lighter. I wonder if I could ever find one of those again. If any of you buds at home have any really cool lighters or anything, let us know down in the comments. I'd be interested in seeing that.
Absolutely. And
Cool
again,
shit.
just tell us what kind of lighter you use and,
Yeah.
what's your preferred method of smoking your cannabis. Sorry for the
Yeah. How do y'all,
long-winded
how do y'all
conversation,
burn
but,
that? No,
you
it's
know,
good, man. It's good. We
no, it's good.
like
It's all
talking.
good. But with all that, another place that might sell some pretty cool lighters is our fantastic ad spot.
Do you like fashionable and unique clothing? Do you like things that shine super bright when exposed to light? Do you like discounts? Do you like advertisements that ask, do you like, over and over, knowing there is no direct way for you to answer back? If you answered yes to all of these questions, or even just the first three, check out lumenspot.com for some lit clothing and accessories, and use the code GoodBudsPodcast at the checkout for 50% off and free shipping. Thank you, Lumenspot, for sponsoring us, and thank all of you for listening. Check it out today with the link below in the description.
Sorry, it's not that one. It's the next one that's coming up. But anyway,
Yeah, Lumenspot just has really cool clothes.
exactly. But
Yeah.
speaking of things that are coming up, there are things that are coming up in the world, and we have them to talk about.
Very important
It's very important indeed, and hopefully you buds at home are ready for some weed news worldwide. Or should I really say a weed new? Well, it's one news. Exactly one news
I think the
story.
singular of news is still news. It's like buffalo. Like, there are many buffalo, there's one buffalo.
Well, today we have one news for you,
We have one news for you today.
and that news is some really interesting shit that hopefully everyone has probably seen by this point.
The
But-
reason we're covering one story is because it's a very important one.
Exactly. We'll both be covering it. We'll both be going over the points as we see in the article, and then we'll go talk about opinion. And at the end, we'll let you buds know how you can get involved.
Yeah.
So, what the story that we're reading from today comes to us from Marijuana Moment. The link will be downstairs in the description below. And essentially, what is going on is Chuck Schumer and all right. So the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, the Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden, and Senator Cory Booker, all of them Democratic, respectively from New York, Oregon, and New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
have unveiled a draft at a press conference on Wednesday that is a bill that they are going to propose titled the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act, weighing in at 163 pages, that
Yeah.
it will decriminalize / legalize cannabis on a federal scale
Fat stacks of
for
legal documents.
United States of America.
Yeah.
Now,
No, this
Buds,
is, again, federal legalization.
federal legalization from the U.S. government. Now, mind you, if you're in the United States government, you can make this happen. And mind you, if you're not in the United States, you can help by sharing this with your buds who are in the United States.
Yeah, you might not be listening from the States right now, but if you have any friends at all, or any people or relatives or loved ones who live in the States who are cannabis users or who may be concerned with cannabis laws, share this.
Exactly. So, things that they've stated is, or the main features of this legislation largely align with what advocates and stakeholders expected. It would federally deschedule cannabis, expunge prior convictions, allow people to petition for resentencing, maintain the authority of states to set their own marijuana policies, and remove collateral consequences like immigration-related penalties for people who have been criminalized over the plant.
Yep, he's
So-
absolutely right. Yep.
A lot of very nice things that obviously advocates, a lot of people who do smoke cannabis are obviously like, yeah, why should people get punished for that shit?
Well, I know Wyden was quoted in the article as saying that cannabis prohibition, a key pillar of the failed war on drugs, has caused substantial harm to our communities and small businesses, and especially for communities of color. So it's as simple as this: Senator Booker, Schumer, and I want to bring common sense to the federal government, end prohibition, and restore the lives of those hurt the most and set them up for opportunity.
Exactly.
Dude,
And,
I like
yep,
this guy. This is the first I've heard about him as a politician, but what the fuck is everybody saying every politician's an asshole? This guy sounds fucking legit.
he's also he's also been on Twitter, fucking, you know, obviously posting about stuff, fucking resharing tweets, fucking really getting this petition going. But then we
Yeah.
also have Chuck Schumer, who stated the war on drugs has too often been a war on people, and particularly people of color. Not only will this legislation remove cannabis from the federal list of controlled substances, but it will also help fix our criminal justice system, ensure restorative justice, protect public health, and implement responsible taxes and regulations. Again, he's been taking to Twitter as well. He's been standing with Ron Wyden and Senator Booker, obviously, and they've made up this very nice thing.
Yeah, they drafted this bill. Now, obviously, it took a lot of time and effort to make sure that they covered, a lot of bases in the bill. Basically, they said, for decades they've been fighting, this war on drugs and it's been failing. So they said it's about time for Congress to end the prohibition and, really help the relevant communities that were majorly impacted by the draconian laws that were behind the plan, right? So there are a lot of things they've covered in the bill, right? Like,
Correct.
there's a broad spectrum of things,
With
but there's a few things squiggy,
which
right?
we'll go over. Yeah, we'll go over a couple of them. Now, the first and foremost is obviously this bill would also impose a federal tax on marijuana products and put some of that revenue toward grant programs meant to support people from communities most impacted by prohibition who want to participate in the industry.
Oh yeah,
Which, if that's the actual case, I'm okay with that. If it's
oh
going
yeah,
right back into pockets, but we'll get to that in a second.
yeah.
Further, the legislation would transfer regulatory authority over cannabis from the DEA, so
IDEA.
from the Drug Enforcement Administration, to the FDA, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms,
AKA the
and
ATF.
aka the ATF, and also the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, or the
Also known as
TTB.
the TTB, which is stupid for alcohol and tobacco trading, the like tobacco tax trade. But that'd be ATTTB. I mean, come on, people.
Well, they don't want to have an at tobacco because then they
They
would
should
be
have called it
confused with.
Attaboy.
No, they'd get confused with ABBA.
That's
So anyway,
true. Dancing queen, doing drugs and smoking some things.
yeah. All right, so on to some more of the basic components. Well, continuing from that, the FDA would be recognized as the primary federal regulatory authority with respect to the manufacture and marketing of cannabis products,
Yeah.
including requirements related to minimum national good manufacturing practice, product standards, registration and listing, and labeling information related to ingredients and directions for use. So essentially, they would standardize packaging for all cannabis.
Of course, just like all other consumables in the United States, right? The FDA has their hands on all of that as a regulatory body to make sure that you're only eating 6 parts of insect when you eat a Mars bar,
Yeah, when
instead
you
of
see
the
a
possible 100.
exactly. So when you see that, if you see a nutrition label, these are the same people who do that, and they're making it for weed.
Yeah,
So
which is
on top
smart
of that,
because Curtis and I love as much labeling as humanly possible. We want to know
wanna know
exactly what is up
everything.
with our cannabis strains. So if the FDA is like, you need to list literally every detail of this strain on the bottle, Curtis and I will be like, cha-ching!
yeah.
Less research, yeah.
Now, meanwhile, the TTB would have jurisdiction over marijuana tax and trade practices that would
Mhm.
include cannabis tax revenue collection, tax law enforcement, and tracking and tracing of marijuana products.
Potential
would
export.
They would also be in charge of potential export as well as potential import, which means they would probably be in charge of me and Shank getting the same
Yeah.
strains.
Yeah, and we could potentially, if this, well, sorry, not if. I believe in you, Budz. So when this goes through and when this is accomplished, this means that if Curtis gets a fire strain or I get a fire strain, I can be like, Bud, I'm gonna send you some, and just be like, mail it down to him, put it in a business class package, have it delivered down to him.
In
Bam.
1 to 2 days, bam.
Uncle named Robert, man, there you go. He's burning it, right? And we can be
Exactly.
sitting here on the strain, like burning the same type of weed. Can you imagine?
Exactly. But on top of that, there's also uh, bits about social equity in here as well.
Now, the social equity aspect of it, I'm really interested in. I was reading a lot about that before like when we were first going over the article there, and we were deciding what to go over for the podcast. I think it's really wonderful because they've said that, like we said, and we mentioned a couple times already in the article, the war on drugs has been a war on people and people of color. Specifically, it's obvious. Everybody knows about Harry Anslinger, and if you don't, Google him. I'm not giving him airtime, but the war on cannabis, essentially, these politicians realize that the people who've been jailed for it deserve some kind of reciprocation for the time in their lives that they've lost for a plant they shouldn't have lost. So they're talking about putting programs in place to help with restorative justice for people who've been locked up for any kind of cannabis laws or breach of cannabis laws in the past. But they're also talking about doing grants, public and professional grants, for people in minority communities that have been heavily impacted by the drugs, by the war on drugs that has supremely failed, in order to help them get a foot up in the business rather than just being another mega conglomerate getting into it or anything else. So they have put into the bill that they want to make sure that they have basically they want to make sure that people who've been targeted by cannabis criminalization in the past, which, like we said, is mainly minority communities and lower income economic communities and stuff like that, and it seeks to repair harm by mandating each federal district to basically expunge arrests, and convictions. So if you've been arrested or convicted for a federal offense with marijuana or cannabis, sorry, then that will be expunged from your federal record, which is awesome. Because, like, if you have any kind of federal record, I know that it can impede your ability to travel and do other things and get jobs and that kind of thing when it very well shouldn't.
Exactly.
So they basically are going to be looking at expunging arrests and convictions for non-violent cannabis offenses. And they're going to be looking to, which obviously...
Which is awesome for me, considering I do have a prior, cannabis conviction. It was just a misdemeanor charge. It's already been expunged in Michigan, but obviously if you were to check on federal scale, you would still see it.
Exactly.
Now it doesn't matter, and now I can actually get a federal job.
Exactly.
Well, no, I can't. I didn't go to college.
But you get the idea, though, right? It's like, because I know, true story, very true story. This is like 100%. I know personally a family that there was a husband and wife married for 30 years. It's an older couple that I know. Husband and wife married for 30 years, and they, or I guess 30-something years, and they had planned to go to the United States to visit the States from Canada. And as they were going down, when they got to the border, they arrived at the border, and basically they searched up their names, and they found a conviction on this man, on the husband's record, right? They found a conviction on the husband's record from 25 years ago. 25 years ago, they found a conviction on his record, and they denied him entry to the United States. They told him they had to turn around and go home. They were like, nope.
Yep.
Turn around and go home. And it was one of those things that it's like, what? For smoking a plant 25 for smoking a plant and getting caught smoking a plant 25 fucking years ago, this guy is not allowed to enter a country, like the country of freedom?
Bullshit.
The hell is that, man? And so I was like, and that's a true story that actually happened. I actually know these people. No names or anything, but like that actually happened, and that won't happen in the future if this goes through, because they need to do this within 1 year. They're putting a time limit on it, and they're saying that it needs to be done within 1 year of them passing the bill. They need to be expunged. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. Now, on top of that, I mean, obviously, expunging criminal is the least they could do. One of the best things they could do is fucking give you money to actually grow the stuff, which is another thing they're doing. They're establishing grants. In particular, as of right now, there would be 3 grant programs established under the bill. One would be a fund nonprofit that provides services to individuals adversely impacted by the war on drugs, such as job training, reentry services, and legal aid, among other services.
So like cannabis training schools.
No, not even. No. These are job training, as in like basic job training.
Oh, just general job training. Nice.
And reentry services. So these are for criminals who were in jail for cannabis offenses, so they can have
back into society.
Exactly.
I know you spent the last 15 years in jail doing jack shit because of smoking weed, but now that you're free, here's how you get a job with an iPhone.
That's exactly what this is for.
Yeah, no, and that's amazing. No, that's amazing.
Yeah,
because people need
50,
that. Yeah, I've seen the Shawshank Redemption. I know when the old dude got out of prison, and he's like, "Prison's the only life I know." And then
you got to keep an eye on Brooks. You got to keep an eye on Brooks.
Keep an eye on Brooks, man.
Exactly. So they also offer legal aid. So obviously, if there is any trouble that arises, they can get help, other services. But on top of that, this specific grant would be distributed through the new Cannabis Justice Office under the Justice Department.
Nice.
So they would have
So
a
they'd be starting a
specific,
cannabis justice office.
exactly,
Sounds like my
specifically
kind of
for
office to
cannabis.
be justice part of the justice of. Like that's my kind of Justice League right there.
Yeah.
Bongman.
So another grant that they have would provide funding to eligible states and localities to make loans to assist small businesses in the cannabis industry owned by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals through the Small Business Administration.
Nice. So basically,
And
helping people start cannabis stores or small grows or micro grows or that kind of thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
specifically socially and economically disadvantaged, which again kind of falls into the same
The war
a
on
similar
drugs
category.
caused that for the most part. So I mean,
Exactly.
like the unfair treatment of people in lower economic areas is the reason why they're probably lower economic areas. you know.
And finally, there's the Equitable Licensing Grant Program, which would provide funding to eligible states and localities to implement cannabis licensing programs that minimize barriers for individuals adversely affected by the war on drugs. So, not only are they breaking down the barrier, they are opening with open arms, like, yo, we're sorry. Come on, give me a hug. Come grow some
Yeah,
cannabis.
yeah, they're going. So they're opening it. Basically, not only are they funding business owners who want to start a business in the cannabis industry, but they're also helping to finance people, like so that essentially to be like, listen, man, we
Right.
know that you deserve this because, like, dude, you were locked up for weed, and like fucking, or your community is shittier because like people were targeted unfairly for so long. Like
Yes.
take this money and do awesome cannabis
And
things.
on top of this, to be eligible for these SBA grants, states
Hmm.
and localities must take steps to create an automatic process to expunge criminal records for cannabis offenses and violations for individuals under criminal supervision for cannabis offenses.
Totally.
So, in order for them to even file or get, you know, money for these grants or whatever for these states or localities, they specifically have to expunge the records. So a
Yep.
state can't just be like, "Oh, give us the money for, and we'll do this or this." No, specifically
Yeah, they have to have a process in place
where
in
you're
order
expunging
where you're
criminal,
expunging criminal records, and
which
that's
pretty
like,
much
yeah,
opens that pretty much only opens these grants up for places where they are legally growing cannabis.
exactly right. Or
So that
states,
means
because
this,
obviously because of states' rights,
right?
states do still have the ability, if they decide to say that they want to keep cannabis a controlled
Legal.
substance and keep it illegal, and so federally they can't mandate that you have to do these things, but they can federally mandate that you need to do them if you want funding.
Right.
Like, if you want extra money, you gotta do these things. If you don't want that extra money, that's fine. You don't need to take it. Like, you don't need to. If you want to do your own
But
thing, cool. But
right.
if you want
But
that money, do what we say.
because in our eyes, if you want that money, you have a lot of people locked up for something that we say is not
Yeah,
legal.
is no
It's
longer
not
illegal.
illegal.
So, yeah.
So because of that, we're not going to give you money. As soon as you
Yeah.
let those people go, which means
Yeah.
you would admit that weed isn't bad, so you might as well legalize it anyway. Then we'll give you money to start rebuilding the bullshit that you caused.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And like,
So
I
this
mean,
would
it
be
just
huge for areas obviously like Detroit, well, just all of Michigan because we have Detroit, Flint, Saginaw.
Oh,
Fucking
absolutely, man, absolutely. And like another thing that really is cool about the bill is that it also focuses very heavily on consumers' rights. So not just a business perspective, not just the business owners or the business purchasers or anything else. It also focuses heavily on the consumer, the people who are going to be smoking the cannabis, because ultimately we're the ones giving them money, and going
Right.
into that tax revenue, kind of important cog in the machine. Without us, there's no money coming in, right? So now, what they're saying is that people could not be denied federal benefits due to the use or possession of cannabis, or for a prior conviction for cannabis use. So, say you apply for federal benefits of some kind, you need like aid or employment insurance or some shit like that. They can't say, okay, we'll give you a drug test, and if you have cannabis in your system, you no longer are eligible for those benefits. Which is a thing. If you get tested positive for drugs or whatever, cannabis specifically included, with other drugs such as heroin, crack, whatever, then you can lose those benefits. But now they're saying that with this bill, you cannot be denied or lose your benefits for cannabis offenses. Which is duh, because it's cannabis. It's not an offense. The only person you're offending is fucking some dumbass who's too fucking stupid to read You like learn something new. You know, the only people you're offending by cannabis use, unless you're being a dick about it and like blowing smoke in somebody's face who doesn't want it, then the only person you're offending is someone who isn't involved, right? And so when you're smoking cannabis, this makes it so that you can't lose your benefits for it, which is great. But also, the measure would authorize physicians with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to issue recommendations for medical cannabis to veterans, which is something they can't do right now. And they should be able to do. Like right now, the federal doctors can't say, we recommend you as a veteran try cannabis for your insert VA caused injury here. But if this bill passes, that's something they'll be allowed to do, which is fucking great. That's awesome.
Absolutely. That's massive. It's
Yeah.
fucking huge.
Like a doctor being
Everyone
able to prescribe something that will help somebody is kind of an important thing.
So now there's a lot more in this article about the taxes, the permits, the federal studies, a lot more
So much.
details, and also about how much this bill has been anticipated and some reactions of some of the senators so far.
Well, yeah, we've been
But
talking about them doing this kind of thing for on and off since we started the podcast. I think
Exactly.
we've mentioned it all through season one and
I
most
mean,
of
at least
season
through
two.
at least halfway through season 1, but
Yeah, and we've been talking about this,
this
so yeah.
so this is nice that it's finally coming to fruition, but this is the part that we really need to talk about.
Yeah.
The senators want feedback on the draft bill.
Yeah. They want to know what you think and we think.
Exactly. They are the senator's bill would establish a federal standard to make it so only those 21 and older can purchase recreational cannabis products. Each state that currently allows adult use cannabis maintains the age restriction. So they're just doing a lot more stuff to just generalize it, but an overview of some of the main points that they are seeking comment on specifically is measuring the potency of cannabis products, the overlap of definitions for hemp and cannabis, regulations for synthetic THC, regulatory responsibilities for various federal agencies and FDA funding, coordinating federal and state law enforcement responsibilities for cannabis, state uh, primacy regarding cannabis regulation and interstate commerce. So obviously allowing for states' rights, but still
Yeah.
make sure
Exactly.
federal
Like,
and
like I
state
said,
enforcements.
if Texas decides to keep it illegal, then Texas can still do that as long as
But
they
if every
acknowledge that it's legal on a federal level.
exactly, Texas can keep it illegal, but if Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kansas, Mississippi, every state around it decides no, it's legal,
Yeah.
you know,
They're gonna.
they're gonna have to be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, interstate commerce, we have to let it ship through or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, they're also they also said that they're focusing on balancing efforts to reduce barriers to entry to the cannabis industry, while mitigating the influence of illicit cannabis operators. So trying to slow down those street dealers a little bit and kind of help recreational sales
The-
locations get going.
The illicit growers and cannabis members
Yeah.
that we've been talking about
Yeah,
in California.
Budz, just start applying for permits and shit now, man. You know, like it's fucking. It'll take a minute to go through, but by the time this bill passes, you might be set. But they're also working on. They also want feedback on determining whether cannabis products should go through a pre-market review before being marketed.
And finally,
yeah.
the one that's obviously the most important to us here at the Good Buds podcast: how to deal with international treaty obligations with respect to cannabis.
Exactly.
Which means
NAFTA.
how essentially do they make sure NAFTA still applies with cannabis? Which
Yeah.
means how do we make sure
Well,
we can
Canada's
trade with
already
Canada?
rocking it. Canada's already rocking it. We don't even worry about it because right now Canada is already doing the whole NAFTA thing with like Colombia and fucking Mexico and like everything else, and we're basically just going around the states right now. And I think, for a business perspective, Canadian industry and American industry would much prefer if that Canadian weed was going through the states. Because then we're paying state transport fees, everything else. We can pay American companies to ship it and everything else, that kind of thing. And so, and not to mention,
I want some of the
most
weed that
important
you
thing-
got.
The most important thing, yeah, like I was gonna say, I want to be able to send Curtis some cannabis. Like if I get some really fucking blazing cheap, I want to be able to be like, dude, you gotta try this, and go grab a UPS business class fucking package and zip it off to Curtis, like, and vice versa.
Exactly. So, as we've said, this whole story is downstairs, and the links downstairs in the description below downstairs.
Yeah.
Marijuana moment, fucking senators, Chuck Schumer, fucking needs your help, as well as Senator Cory Booker and
go
fucking
read
Ron
the
Wyden.
bill. Yeah, go read the bill a little bit. Check it out. They have an email address in the article that you can actually send your comments and concerns to. So if you have any concerns, comments, questions about that bill or anything like that, send them there, and they're paying attention to it.
You can participate. You might be able to say something. I
Yeah,
know the
your
good
voice
buds are
makes a
probably
difference.
the good buds may or may not be sending a nice
Yeah.
little email, but it's
Yeah.
a 163-page bill if you want to actually sit and read through it.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah, as it stands now, the good buds are.
We're not going
in
to do that.
support-
On,
Yeah, we're in
we're not
support
going to
of
do
the
that
bill.
on podcast.
Yeah, we're not going to do that on the podcast. That if that's something you're interested in hearing us do or anything like that, comment
do it
down
on our
below and we'll do it on
our
Patreon. Yeah, but
But-
no, like it. But yeah, just this is somewhere where your voice can be heard. So just make yourselves heard, buds, and just let them know that you support the bill. And if you don't support any individual aspects or parts of the bill, let them know what and why, and they're here to listen for once. Your government wants you to talk to them. Don't just say the government never listens and don't talk.
Exactly.
You know, you
And-
gotta say the government. If you're gonna say the government
with all
doesn't
that-
listen, you gotta be saying something.
Because remember, they'll listen. Hopefully, they'll listen to us before they start listening to billionaires.
Big
Once
truth.
the money starts rolling in,
Yeah,
we don't know how those bills are going to change.
we don't know.
So,
Yeah, we don't know.
get your word in while you can. And with all
That's
of that, thank you for joining us on our One News Worldwide America.
Yeah, that was a fantastic news segment. Obviously, we love covering news stories around the world. This week it was just America, but something around the world that you should check out is our awesome sponsor.
Hey buds, you really want to show off your love of marijuana or just really shine at your next smoke session? You really want to go to myhighshop.com for some of the coolest cannabis clothing and accessories. They have shirts, sweats, jewelry, grinders, and even pipes made out of amethyst crystals. You can check them out using the link below and let them know I sent you by using code GoodBudsCurtis at checkout. You can save 35% off your entire order and free shipping. Again, that's code GoodBudsCurtis at checkout. Thank you to myhighshop.com, and let's get back to the show.
Hey, what do you know? They do have lighters there. Sweet.
They got lighter shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
My high shop, love them.
well, now that I know that, I'm feeling pretty good. But Shank, how are you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great. This strain is fantastic. I'm very upbeat. Not feeling very low sunk down indica or anything. I do feel very uplifted, very light. Great, man. Honestly, it's a very good focus strain. I feel like I've got good amount of energy to kind of keep going and keep doing things. I like it. I like the strain. The flavor was not a whole bunch, but the hit's nice. Feels good in my head.
Good.
Yeah. So how you feeling, man?
My butt is locked. I feel like my arms are skinnier. I'm still lackadaisy, and I don't know how that electric shot hit me. I'm not sure if it's the bong anymore or spinal damage. But
Could be
either
both.
way, I'm feeling pretty fucking relaxed.
Nice. Nice.
So much so, my pants are full of brown. And
It's like my pants weren't brown before the podcast started. They were white.
and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what is it? It's I remember there was the old story about, the British officer was wearing a red coat and brown pants, and they asked him, "Why are you wearing a red coat? You're super visible on the battlefield." And he said, "Well, it's so that if I get shot, the men won't see the blood." Right? And then the guy goes, "Yeah, but why are you wearing brown pants?" And he said, "For the same reason, but not blood."
It's in case
Because if he
Came.
gets shot, he might poop.
he came
He came. No, that's magnificent though. But
over to the latrine so we could take a whiz.
Buds, really appreciate you sticking around. Curtis and I are feeling really great. Obviously Curtis is taking another big ol' hoo to that bong there, and that leads us into our conversation. Hey buds, here we are on the conversation portion of the show. Thanks for joining us here. We are joined today by our second resident meme lord and a good bud of ours, Josh Horsnell. Josh, how you doing today, man?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
Nice. Thanks for being here.
Good.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh yeah. Love seeing your memes when you post them to our page on Facebook, which you both should be checking out while you're listening.
Yeah.
But always good to see you. Fucking good to hear from you, and good to see some other people.
Yeah.
But On our podcast, our conversation, we always have to ask first question first. Do you partake in the cannabis?
Oh, that's big for sure.
Big time for it.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
That's good. Well, I have a bong packed right here of some smoothie.
And I have a bong packed right here of that ebb and flow.
And do you have anything that you're going to be smoking with us today right now?
I've already smoked. I can't smoke in the house. So.
Oh, there you go. All right, but you're what are you burning? What were you burning today? You said it's some nice homegrown.
Yep, it was lemon kush, I think it was, but it was grown outside, so it was a little harsh on the throat.
Nice. There you go. There you go. Well, a little zest of lemon tad to the smoothie and the flow of the ocean.
Yep.
Okay. But, well, can't leave you buds hanging any longer. I have my bong. Frank has his bong. Let us blaze it. Tok tok skaboat.
Man, that is tasty. A little harsh, but a
Nice.
little tasty. Oh my goodness. So, once again, Josh, thank you for coming on the show today. We can't, you've been around since early on in the show. You started, you joined our Facebook group, and you immediately started sharing all of those dank weed memes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do come across them on occasion.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Like Curtis said, whenever we get a new notification that pops up saying, Josh Horsnell shared a post, we're like, oh man, okay, we got to see what it is. And we click on there, and every single time, top tier, high quality weed memes.
Yep.
Like, it's brilliant,
Oh.
brilliant. We appreciate it. We do. You are appreciated.
I try my best.
Yeah, man. Oh, it's so great. And so, obviously, you've been smoking for, you smoke cannabis and enjoy cannabis. Now, how long have you been smoking cannabis?
It would be 21 years now.
Nice. There you go, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long time smoker. And
Yeah.
and obviously, like we always say, that even though it only did get legalized recreationally, everything that we do on the show, at the time that we do it, when we're telling a story, it was completely legal, whether it was legal or not. So so I mean, it was fully legal regardless. But no, that's crazy, man. 21 years.
Yep. September 23rd, 1999.
Oh man, he still remembers. He remembers
Oh,
the
yeah.
day. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Good.
I wish my memory
Oh.
was still good enough that I could remember the day that I started smoking.
Well, was it
Well,
a pretty memorable day? What exactly happened? September 23rd, 1999.
it was the
Let's
day
take
of the
us
school
back.
election.
It's school election.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah,
man.
I ran for student vice president and made the agreement that if I won, I was going to celebrate, but if I lost, I was going to try and forget. And
Oh, the Dick Cheney approach. Like, nice.
It's the same way I go about it. Like, it's like when we're playing zombies together. I'm like, if we win this round, I'm going to smoke a joint to celebrate. If we lose this round, I'm going to smoke a joint because I'm sad about it.
It's also
Yeah.
very accurate considering you're usually the one you're taking the fall for it.
That's true. I am usually,
Yeah.
well, that's the thing is I have more time to smoke weed when we're playing zombies because I spend half the time dead. So I just watch them and smoke weed. It's kind of like watching streamers.
Like,
One
if anything,
of whom is extremely talented, and the other one just kind of.
see, if anything, you sound more like the leader of the Justice Department. But regardless,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just smoke a lot of weed and watch other people do stuff.
Yeah.
nice.
But no, man, and I mean, hey, that's what our audience is doing right now, and thank you for it, Budz.
Yeah.
Appreciate you smoking a bunch of weed and watching us. So yeah, so the election happened. Now, did you win said election?
No.
Oh dang! Oh,
Yeah.
Vote for Josh, Budz. Come on.
Yeah.
So was it
No.
So it wasn't a celebration. It was more like I got nothing better to do. Might as well turn to
Yeah.
drugs. I can't be the vice president anymore.
Yeah. But no, I was going to a party and I showed up early and it was just me and 6 other girls and they sparked up a joint and
Situation
started
most
handing
teenage
it
guys
around.
want to find themselves in,
Okay,
Yeah.
I got.
But
yep.
but only the nerdy ones do.
Yeah.
take
The
that,
moment-
take that,
The
Joss.
moment where you're like, okay, I gotta do everything right in this situation. They let up a joint. Cool, I do drugs now.
Yeah, I smoke weed now.
Oh, exactly.
Girls want
Oh,
me to
yeah.
smoke
I know.
weed. I smoke weed now.
But no, everybody that showed up at the party was like, "Oh my God, you're smoking weed? You got to smoke some weed with me."
So you ended up. Yeah.
Oh, I got terribly wrecked.
Uh,
Oh man. Yeah, and now look where he is. Now look where he is, Budz. He's a resident meme lord.
Yep.
That's what could happen to you if you start smoking weed today. You could someday be
Yep.
the resident meme lord for an awesome ass podcast.
Yeah.
But no, man, that's
Just
great.
takes
So, like,
practice.
yeah, and so, and honestly, I can't like, and it's so funny because when I think back, like if I think back as far as I can, I vaguely remember the first time I smoked cannabis, like vaguely,
Yeah.
very vaguely, and I remember it was on the trails behind the PMQs, like in Greenwood, and
Yeah.
like the base. The PMQs are
Yeah.
the private military quarters or whatever for all the buds listening at home.
You talking the oak?
Not even the oak, actually. The opposite side, like by
Oh.
you know where like the row houses, like the bigger briquette ones and stuff like that.
Row
how
house.
Yeah, row house.
Oh, okay.
Row
Yeah.
house. But they have like these walking trails back by like towards the skate park and the Morphe Center and stuff like that. It's a building.
Oh,
that
okay,
people
yeah.
who are local would
Yeah.
know what we're talking about. But like back
Yeah.
that way, there are those trails, and I know
Yeah.
it was on those trails. And it was something involved with the skate park, like, cause I can't for the life of me remember what it was. But my fucking goodness, like, I remember, not even remotely the date. I don't remember how old I was. I don't remember what
Yeah.
the time period was. I don't even fucking remember who I was with. Like maybe one of the people or two of the people that were there, but there was.
Yeah.
I don't remember at all. So someone could be like, "Yeah, man, I was there the first time he smoked weed," and I'd be like,
I was.
Sure. Yeah, Curtis
Yeah.
was. Sure. Fuck him, I know. Maybe he was, man.
An
Yeah.
entire country away, considerably
Yeah, he
younger than you.
managed to- yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. He was there, and that's what I mean,
Yeah.
right? So people could be like, "Yeah, man, I was there the first time he smoked weed," and I'd be like, "Sure, man, I'll take your word for it." Like I have no idea, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's crazy, awesome that you like you're one of the first people I've met that actually definitively remembers the date
Yeah.
that they started
don't-
smoking.
I don't remember
Yeah,
the day
well-
or anything else that, but I remember my situation that led me to smoke weed.
Yeah.
It was, well, the first time I smoked, it was because I was a bad kid and I was smoking cigarettes. Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my friend at the time fucking
I'm not
passed me. My friend at the time passed me a hand-rolled cigarette with lots of air quotations.
Oh, the all hang kill method. Man, you got
Exactly.
a weak, you got a weak flame on this, boy. Here, let me. Oh, so does your
Oh.
wife know you party? Party? Yeah, get high. Whoa.
Exactly. So I smoked some
Yeah.
weed, and I'm like, yeah, I know. And I gave it back, and I'm like, fuck you, buddy. And I go home.
Yeah.
A week later, I'm like, you know what? Let me try that again.
Yeah, yeah. You got home and you were like, I'm gonna fucking destroy these cupcakes.
Had some great sleep that night. But anyway,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, so that's cool, man. So 21 years of smoking cannabis, and now obviously you said there in the when we asked you if you smoke cannabis there that you had already smoked and everything, that you had some lemony deliciousness today. Now, what is your
Yeah.
favorite type of cannabis though? Like if you could pick like a favorite strain or a favorite, do you like, I mean, if you had to lean indica, sativa, like do you have a preference? Or are you one of those dudes that's like, I'll put whatever I can get my hands on, you know, like OG style?
I'll smoke everything, but I prefer sativas and hash over everything. I just love the high from hash. It's just
Yeah, me too. Me
nice
too.
and mellow and
I'm
headspace.
yeah, since the days of me being a 17-year-old ruining butter knives, I loved hash. Like ruining butter knives on the top of a fucking stove burner to do some hot knives with hash. I've
Yeah.
loved hash. Yeah, no, hash is magnificent. The high you get from it is definitely a lot different than, you know, regular cannabis high. Like I know a lot of people, like,
Yeah.
if any of you buds out there haven't tried hash, it's like kind of like almost like a mix between an edible and like a regular smoke, like a regular stone. You know, you get that kind of
Yeah.
body high, but not the couch lock body high that you get from like a cookie or something, right? You know, and it's
Yeah.
nice. It's nice. It's great if you have a bad back like me. or numerous other medical issues that I probably have and don't know about because I smoke so much weed. thumbs up for not knowing which part of my body hurts today because I'm too high.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so you like the indicas or sativas, and you like sativas, and you like hash and everything else. And it's funny because on the show, like the buds at home know that Curtis and I have he prefers the indicas, I prefer the sativas, but both of us are the similar way that we'll smoke if it comes across we're not gonna be like, oh no, and I'm not gonna be like, no, an indica, I'm not, no. Like, I smoke indica all the time on the podcast, and Curtis smokes sativa whenever he gets his hands on it. If it's we just like good weed.
Yeah. For me, it's variety. Like, as long as I can keep getting something different, that's key.
Yeah.
Because if I end up smoking the same thing too much, then it loses its vigor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Less
I'd like
exciting.
every once in a while to, smoke something and then like a month later maybe pick up another little amount. Like, okay, the flavor's still the same, it's still reminiscent. But I won't buy an ounce and then buy a whole another ounce the next week. Fucking
Yeah.
That's too much.
Well, yeah, I know. It's if any of the buds at home, you've probably seen a few videos on Instagram, which you should check out down below, our Instagram pages. We've got links in the description. But you've probably seen he's posted pictures of some of his strain collections, and he has little bits of multiple types of cannabis, right? And that's what I have too.
Yeah.
You can see my shelf behind me. You can't, but the buds watching in the interview right now can see the shelf behind me, and it's full of weed containers because we like variety. And you're right. It's like what's the old saying? Variety is the spice of life.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that the old saying? Nobody says that anymore, but that's a
and then it
good
gets
saying.
into let this groove, get in the mood, it's all right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No,
sorry, I like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
No, you're good, man. Hey, it is never a bad time for Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah, that and the Bee Gees. There's never a wrong time.
There's too much Bee Gees.
No,
But anyway,
dude, have you heard of actually? Fun fact. Sorry, just while we're on the topic of the Bee Gees, Dave Grohl recently started a project called the DGs, where he's doing covers with the Foo Fighters of Bee Gees songs, and he did one of the most fucking amazing renditions of Dancin' that I have ever heard in my life.
That's fine. That's okay. Dave
No, it wasn't
Grohl
fine.
is
It
cool.
was magnificent.
The Bee Gees, there's too much of them.
There's only 3 of them. Well, actually,
Too much.
I think there's only 2 of them now. Isn't one of them dead? I don't know.
Not enough.
Probably.
I don't know.
But anyway,
I don't know. It's like men without hats. There's just never a bad time. but yeah, no. So yeah, we can dance if we want to. But it's fucking it's magnificent to just kind of have a good variety of cannabis strains and a good keep it from getting boring, and I mean a lot of people are like, I need to take a tolerance break. I'm like, no, you just need to switch strains more often. Change your terpenes up.
lucky for the fact that I've only had to take one per se tolerance break, and that was really because I was getting drug tested for court, so I really couldn't smoke.
Yeah.
That
was less of a tolerance break and more of an I'm tolerating this break.
Exactly.
It's...
And luckily, the entire rest of the time I've been smoking, I've literally just switched strains. If I've been smoking a lot of high grade, I smoke low grade and something different, and then I go back to the high grade, and I'm like, oh, bro.
Yeah.
If I can't reach that high quite enough, then I'll sit in a fucking, like I said, I'll sit in my friend's cleaned out septic tank with the lid screwed on, and then we'll clam bake the shit out of that with 11 people.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught that episode, Josh, but that's a true story. Yeah, true story. His friend in his home had a smoking area where it was an empty septic tank that they would go inside of.
Cleaned out PVC.
Way more people than should have been in said cleaned out septic tank or empty.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was ever used, but was it ever used or was it? Just
I don't think it was.
used?
No,
Yeah.
no, it was never
It was
used.
just never used. And they would climb inside of this fucking thing. And
We had blankets in there. We had Christmas lights, and then we could shove 11 or 10 or 11 people in there, and then we had 12 joints or bowls or shit going.
Yeah, it was an obscene situation with way more people than should have been in that little container, and
It was definitely a fire hazard.
definitely a fire hazard. Yeah.
But anyway,
No, we once crammed 21 people into a PMQ bathroom.
Oh my god! Okay, now for the buds at home that are listening, like a regular bathroom, you know how like they have like one bath, like a house will say 1.5 bathroom because of those half bathrooms that they have. A PMQ is roughly the size of like maybe 2 of those half bathrooms stuck together. Like
So
the
2 bathrooms.
yeah, well, like maybe
2 halves, so
like,
1 bathroom.
Well, no, because like they're not even really half bath. You know those half, like they're literally like maybe 2 meters square. Like
enough floor space for the door to swing open.
Feet. Yeah, like maybe 7 or 8 feet. Yeah, 7 or 8 feet.
Yeah.
Like like basically across and at most, and that's a lot of fucking people to fit into a space that little.
Yeah.
Like there were bodies on bodies
intense.
in there, and I can only imagine if you were smoking at the time, and it was getting filled up with smoke. There was probably
I just want to imagine
things
somebody
touching
opening the.
things that shouldn't have happened.
I just really want to imagine someone on the other side of the door running over, like really having to take a shit, knocking, and then 21 people walking out with a huge cloud of smoke. That would be fantastic.
Like a fucking clown car of weed.
Yeah.
Like a fucking nightclub is letting out, or a
Oh my
rave.
God, clown car
Yeah.
weed session. Oh man, that'd be magnificent. I can just imagine, like, just like one after the other, and the person's like, okay, finally, and then like 2 more people walk out, and they're like, come on, like, like just a solid string of people keep coming out, and then the string stops, and they're like, finally, and they go to walk in, and more people start coming back out. They're like,
Yeah.
like,
Everyone's finally out. They get in. They get a contact high. They fully relax and end up shitting their pants.
yeah, they're like, oh, finally, I'm gonna make it to the
Yeah.
fighting with their
It was
belt.
hard to tell whether we were getting high off the weed or from the oxygen deprivation.
I was gonna say, yeah, that many people breathing in the room, like,
Hopefully
Yeah.
the toilet was flushed. Otherwise, it was also jankum.
oh man, no, yeah, you would have been, made some homemade
Oh.
jankum.
Well, it was a Jamaican hotbox too, so nobody was actually standing in the bathtub to get the shower
Oh
going.
my god, because you had the shower going. Oh my god, how did nobody die? Like, man, that's unbelievable. Like, I mean, that's
Yeah.
Awesome.
like, now that's the thing is, I mean, I've been in a few Jamaican hot boxes. You turn the shower on, and you start smoking the weed and shit. And, like,
Yeah.
now, first of all, buds at home, just for a little quick, very, very quick tip. If you're going to do this in your parents' house, wipe the walls down after you're done.
Yeah.
Wipe
Oh,
the
definitely.
walls down. Because if you don't, the walls are going to have brown stains all over them. So wipe the walls
Oh, yeah.
down. But, I know that there have been a few that I've been in where I felt like I was going to die, man. Like, I had to, like, basically,
Oh, yeah.
lay on the floor to get below the smoke and, like, below the steam because, like, I was just like, I'm gonna die. But people are like, don't open the fucking door. I don't care if you
Yeah.
think you're gonna die. Don't you fucking open that door. And you're like,
Don't break the seal. Don't break
Don't
the
break-
seal.
yeah, don't break the seal,
Don't
man. Don't
ruin this for me.
Hey, don't break the seal, man. And you're like, oh my god, I need to fucking breathe. Like, fucking, and I remember one time that my buddy, in a Jamaican hotbox, he had the brilliant idea to feed underneath the door, because normally we block it with a towel, right? Because there's the gap underneath the
Yeah.
door or whatever, so you block it with a towel, right? He had
Oh, for sure.
one of those clear PVC medical tubes, like, the medical tubing or whatever.
Oh,
He
yeah.
he put a piece of that under the door and put the towel
Yeah.
all around it so that it was sealed and shit. And then whenever he felt like it, he'd just go over and be like, and take a
So
nice
he's still
big-
involved.
Yeah, take a nice little hit. And well, no, that's the thing is he was on the inside. It was to get a breath. It was to get a breath of fresh air. But
Yeah.
his roommate could come around on the outside of the seal and take a hit from the inside of the hot box if he wanted to. And he did that like a couple times. He like walked by and he was like, and you just like see the tube wiggle. Then you'd hear, "Thanks, dude." And you keep walking, and I was like, man, and I just remember thinking, I remember at like one point we were so baked, and I was sitting there, and I was like, man, I can just see it now. Your cat just walks by and plants its butthole right against that tube just as you go to take a breath of air. I was like, man, that's gonna happen one of these times. And like it thankfully never did. The closest he got to that was sucking in a clump of cat hair that because his cat walked by him, and some of the cat hair went to the end of the tube, and he ended up like breathing it in like a full force.
I mean, in all fairness, thank God his roommate wasn't an asshole and just stayed there silently.
Yeah, he could have just stuck his the asshole. Yeah, he could have like literally been a literal and figurative asshole in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, friggin' like, yeah, check out.
Anyway,
These are like those German videos I saw that one time. I got too deep on Google. But yeah, and so like it was just man, like, and I was like, you know, I thought it was a brilliant idea, just the fact that it was a two-way valve, right? He could get fresh air from the outside, and his roommate could get unfresh air from the inside, right? And, but to be fair, if I was the roommate though, I wouldn't have been taking hauls of that stale ass air that had already been in people's lungs, and just let me roll up a joint and smoke it.
That would be funny if I was a rich person though, and I could just pay people to. And I could just constantly pay people to hotbox a room in my house, and then I could just walk up to the tube and just inhale the smoke from the room. That would seem like something I would do if I was...
That would be the fanciest way to get high.
If I was an eccentric billionaire, I guarantee that's how I would do it. Eccentric billionaire, not just rich person.
Yeah,
like, you have to be like crazy rich.
Yeah,
to the point where you can
rich
do that.
Rich enough to hire several people to smoke weed.
Well, that was always the dream with those central vacuum cleaners. You know, the ones you just plug into the wall and
just have
the
HVAC central. Yeah, like you can plug them into the.
Have that on a reverse, and like it would just suck all the weed smoke down into it and pump it into whatever room that you had the hose hooked up in.
Yeah, it's like the video I've seen online where the dude had like a leaf blower kind of, and he attached a bowl to the intake valve so that when it. You know, like when he turned it on, they could just light it with a torch and it'd fill it up, but just have that on an industrial scale for your entire house.
There was a tiny hole at the bottom of our PVC tank that I just previously mentioned, and we actually had plans to fucking put one of those on there, but we never got around to it. Like, we found a fucking small motor that we could have put it on. We had the foil and everything. We just needed the proper piping to connect it and somebody to stand outside to turn it on.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah, I remember I made a self-blowing pipe once using a fish tank air motor. Using a fish tank air motor, I made a self-blowing pipe one time, like a long time ago. I think it was like a piece of plastic tubing, one of those metal pipes, and some very, very liberal use of the Mighty Putty that you can get. So I used, with liberal use of Mighty Putty, one of those metal pipes that you can get that screw together and stuff like that in a plastic tube. I turned a fish tank motor. All you'd have to do is just plug it in, and as soon as you plugged it in, it would turn on, and then you could just light the bowl, and it would suck through automatically and just blow a jet of smoke out the tube. And it's like, you know,
awesome.
and it didn't last very long, keep in mind, because those motors are not designed to take any kind of particulates or anything like that through it. So it lasted for maybe about a week before it burnt out and made a really weird noise and then smelled funny. Because the inside was completely coated with resin in a way that it was not supposed to be coated. So but if I had to put that into a fish tank, man, those would have been some stoned ass fish. Like, that would have been the best fish tank ever. Fish dank, more like. See, now I'm thinking about starting a seafood company where I get a bunch of fish stoned before you like prepare them. Like, you know, we already have CBD beef.
Smoked salmon.
Hey, yeah, see, smoking salmon. Yeah, see, you know, like, so I could start a company where I make my own smoked salmon, but it'd be weed smoked salmon. Have you ever had smoked salmon?
Token salmon.
Have you ever had toked salmon, man? On weed? On weed, man. Yeah, so, yeah, like, and it's, like, and I think, like, you know, like, having the good airflow and the good, like, kind of like those, like pumps. If Curtis had to set that one up for him and his friends, they probably would have died.
Oh, yeah. It would have been a glorious way to go out.
It would have been, they would have met in the halls of Valhalla and been like, you know, like, we went out as warriors. Fighting the weed smoke. And yeah, man, so like hot boxes are brutal things, but they are also very, very fun. I haven't had one in many years. Well, I guess my office is like a perpetual hot box because I mean every time I'm in here I'm like smoking nonstop, so it's always but you know, like, aside from that, I haven't had a purposeful hot box, you know what I mean? Where, like, a bunch of people... Now we shouldn't. I mean, Rona, you don't want to get, like, 20 people in the same room now. That probably...
No.
I mean, back then it probably wasn't that great of an idea. Now it's definitely not. I mean, if only for the legal repercussions. You never do more than one illegal thing at a time, right? But basically...
Never do something illegal on your way to do something illegal.
Exactly, right? That's what I say it all the time. Like, actually, we talk about it regularly whenever we're covering a news story where someone does something very fucking stupid and gets caught. It's always because they're doing more than one illegal thing at a time. It's like, dude, if you just do one illegal thing at a time, you do it really well. You know,
Yeah.
you do it really well, and you know you don't get caught.
Like if you're
everything's
growing
good.
cannabis, that's fine. But when you're stealing water from residents and then you're littering and then you're ruining natural ways, especially in
Yeah.
California where they really care about the environment and stuff, and
Yeah.
they're also having droughts.
They're gonna come after you. Yeah, you know, if you're stealing power from your neighbors, you know, like if you're buying illegal guns, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, like you know, one thing at a time. If you're driving to go, like if you've got like 30 fucking kilograms of weed in your car, and you're trying to get it from point A to point B, don't speed.
Yeah.
Don't speed.
Simple
Don't drive through stop signs. Don't run red lights. Don't flip off cops. Don't hit any homeless people with your car. Like, you know, like don't drive into the side of a police car, as per like a very recent news story that we covered on the podcast. Like, you know, like don't drive into a canal whilst leaving a trail of cannabis. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know, like it's and you know, like we always say, one illegal thing at a time and you'll be okay. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's like it's but you know, I haven't had a purposeful hot box in a very long time. So it's one of those
Yeah.
things that it would, you know, it'd be fun to do, but at the same time, you know, like I'm good just smoking like crazy.
Yeah.
Like just burning them trees, you know.
So-
Yeah.
Go ahead, Curtis. Sorry.
Well, just a little change of subject back
Yep.
to, back to his memes, because
Yes.
his memes are fucking hilarious,
Fucking
and I
glorious.
gotta say, in particular, one that I really like was one that kind of speaks to me personally. You
Yeah.
posted it a couple weeks ago, and it's stoners be like, I know a spot and take you here, and it's
Power box.
the green power box.
Yeah.
Just a green power box in a field
The one
behind a tree
behind
somewhere.
you're thinking right now, the one behind Dooley's at the mall.
Yep. That's the one.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's these.
It's
there's these
also
metal
known
balls.
as the UTS,
Yeah, yeah.
Universal
what-
Toke Spot.
Universal Toke Spot. Yeah, and yeah, it's a like place we're Josh and I are both thinking of the same one because we're fairly local, right? But Curtis, you got
For
one of
me-
your own?
For me, there was a neighborhood that was like a subdivision. They had a row of trees, and they wanted to make sure all the beauty was sustained.
Oh, of course.
So there was a forest line, and then there was like this decorative line of trees, I guess, that they had. And behind that decorative line of trees was one of these power boxes and a couple flowers and stuff.
Hide the unsightly thing from sight.
Exactly. So guess where you could go and sit and smoke? No issue. No
Oh,
problem.
yeah.
Where there's no sight lines. What do you know?
Yeah,
Exactly.
perfect.
Yeah, if you create a spot with no sight lines, people will go there to be unseen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
What are
But
the
yeah.
odds?
Almost
Yeah,
like it
ours
was
was-
designed.
Yeah, ours was like the one that we went to was like pretty well right out in the open. Not out in the open. It was like behind the mall. Like it was like in a spot
Yeah.
behind the mall in our town where it wasn't the main thoroughfare. Like it wasn't the main street or like commercial street or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it was just on a fucking corner, like in the open. Like, you know, like there's no like
Yeah,
Real
there was like
coverage.
a house within 20
there's a
feet.
house within
like,
20 yeah there was a house within like 20-30 feet of the side of it, and like
Yeah.
it didn't matter at all. Like people would go there
Yeah.
and they'd like you'd go by and on a regular basis there'd be like 5-6 people sitting all over it smoking, you know. Like
Yeah.
nobody gave a
Usually
shit.
you met up with your friends there because it's like, I'll meet you at the UTS. And then
Yeah.
you get there, you smoke weed while you're waiting for everybody else. And then
Mhm.
once everybody's there,
Is
leg
it back to
tour.
the oak. Yeah, leg
Yeah.
tour, yeah, and then you walk back, and usually what me and my buddies would do is we'd go up by where the recycle depot is, and we would hit
Yeah.
the trails. We would hit the trails there that went back behind Fales River and shit like that, back towards the oak and like back towards that area.
Yeah.
And we would like just wander, man. We would just go and like, cause there's trails back there for like,
Yeah.
you could go and there's like so many branching trails and everything. I know them like the back of my hand now. But I'm sure you spent as
Yeah.
much time back there as I did, just like walking around in the peace
Oh, yeah.
and tranquility of nature, screaming with your friends as loud as you can and smoking weed.
Well, you remember that the water refinement place that they had, like that brick building?
Yep, down by the river with the little park there. Well, the
I'm
park
the
is
reason
fairly
that I'm the reason there's a safety fence around it. Well, there was anyway before it was tore down.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Because I did a whole bunch of spray paint on the place.
Oh
Did some
man,
graffiti.
some graffiti, yeah, some graffiti.
Graffiti.
Yeah, but
You
when I
know?
did it, there was all kinds of trees. So like I had to hold trees back, and like basically I was like a foot away from like the brick wall doing this graffiti.
Oh yeah, because like I mean, because they
And
had all
then
those like trees around, like little trees growing up around it, right? So I mean, they
yeah,
didn't take
but
pretty much
then
all
somebody
that
must have
off.
walked around behind it and went, "Oh my God, they're vandalizing this place."
Oh goodness!
So
Like,
then,
oh my
so
goodness!
then they
Vandalism.
cut. Yeah,
Colorful
so then they
pictures where someone might see them.
yeah, so they cut down all the trees and put up a fence, and then you could actually see the graffiti I had done.
Yeah,
Hey,
you're like,
thanks for
hey!
immortalizing my work.
Yeah,
Yeah, famous.
yeah,
Yeah, man. No, and that's
They're
hilarious.
probably
too, 'cause
like,
I
we
remember.
should have. They're probably like, we should have probably painted that first before putting
Yeah.
the fence up.
Yeah, like I
yeah,
remember very well when they put that up because I remember being like,
yeah,
man, like, I was like, now we got to walk around, like we got to walk around it, and like, I mean, thankfully they didn't go back towards like to the river too far and stuff like that, so you can still get like,
yeah,
you can still get down to the river, right? Because that's the ultimate goal. Like me and my buddies wouldn't hang there for too long because what we like to do
no,
is, we like to jump over the little rivers back there, all those little tributaries that go to the main
oh yeah,
river. Like we used to go back there and we would get baked out of our gourds, and then we would do like parkour. And by
yeah,
that I mean like jumping off of trees and like fucking like running as fast as we
Swinging,
could and like
swing on a branch.
yeah, like swing on a branch, like roll over a stump, that kind of thing. Like almost like just like one step above what they did on The Office,
yeah,
like but like and fucking like but like yeah, we used to go and like try to jump across the like, and I think the last time I went out there actually, we I was with my friend Nathan and we were jumping over the rivers back there, and like they weren't high, like it was like fairly low river, so we were jumping maybe like a 4 foot gap over a river, and it was like super
yeah,
intense because the river's rushing by and it's water, and like
yeah,
it's more intense jumping over water. And I remember I jumped to, there was that little island there that like it wasn't really an island, but it was like a little landmass where there was like
yeah,
a small river going this side and the regular main river on the other side. And I ran
yeah,
and I was smoking a joint, and I ran and I jumped and like made it to the other side, and I was like, yeah, I like did like a cool parkour roll and popped up to my feet, and I was like, yeah, and like like turned around. I was like, come on, man. And he came running, and he had a joint too, and he jumped, and as he jumped, he like inhaled, right, and he sucked the joint into his mouth, and it completely fucked him up. Completely fucked him up. So he got
yeah,
to the other side, and he was like perfectly upright at first, like jumping like like movie style. And like by the
yeah,
time he got like midway through his jump, he was like flailing and like coughing. And he got to the other side, and his feet made it, but the rest of his body was like over the water. He just boom right down into the water, and like, and it was like, honestly, I was laughing really, really, really hard while I saved his ass by pulling him out of the water. Like like
yeah,
like kind of like grabbed him and like pulled him up. Like he was like fucking coughing and hacking, like fucking like he had spit the joint out already in the river and shit like that, and I was just laughing at him, man. It was a
yeah,
hilarious moment. Yeah, but yeah, I mean those trails, a lot of good memories back there with that. Back at those like the Universal Toke spot, like Curtis said, even he had one. It's a Universal Toke
Oh,
spot.
we had. Well,
yeah,
ours wasn't even a universal. Ours was just like one that we found that was cool for a little bit.
Well, no, that's what I
We
mean.
had
Like we had
we've
one
had
here, you had one there. Like I'm
we
sure
had
every
different.
city in the world has
yeah,
one.
Oh, we had
yeah,
way different ones that were way better for us.
Yeah,
Again, in that same episode that I talked about the tank, it was the episode with JMO, so you guys should go
that
back
was a
and
really
check
good
that on
episode.
out.
Yeah, J-Mo's fucking awesome, dude. Check that episode.
But we also had multiple other places, fucking, Wonderland per se, the place we called
Yeah.
Alice, the little alcove of the school that we went into.
Yeah. And I remember you were saying that that one little where that's the one you were playing roof ball, right? Where you invented roof ball.
Yes, allegedly.
I mean, allegedly.
So anyway,
That's where he allegedly
Yeah.
invented roof ball. I don't know. It's contested. There's a town in Kentucky where they say they invented roof ball, but I don't know. It's hotly debated.
but anyway,
But no, yeah. So like, and that's the great thing, man. Like every stoner out there, I think, like every cannabis consumer and smoker who's like been through those sneaky stages, like when fucking like you kind of like, luckily in Canada here, like someone who's just getting into cannabis can be like, I'm gonna go to the store and buy some cannabis. Now I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna sit on my front porch in my rocking chair and smoke a joint, and they don't have to give
Yeah.
a shit. But like anybody who smoked during that period of time, where you kind of had to be like, let's get creative with where we smoke so that we're not obvious to anybody, right? Like like when it, before, and so like anybody who's been through that has probably some ridiculously awesome. Like I mean, like Curtis and like yourself, Josh. Like we've got some great, crazy stoner areas that we've been to. Like like they've got like, and like Curtis has told the story. Like he said when JMO was on, he told some really fucking
Yeah,
really
it's,
good stories about some funny places, some good places.
it's nice to find, good places to smoke and stuff like that. However, it is also awesome to create your own places. And Shank has told me that you are a big fan of D&D.
Yep.
Yeah. Inventing your own worlds to smoke in.
Exactly. So, I guess we could talk a little bit before we have to end the episode. We got a couple more minutes here.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll in a few minutes we'll talk about some D&D and
Exactly. So, how long have you been playing D&D for?
Quite some time. 26 years.
I was about to say
Wow.
he knows his smoking date, but not how long he's been playing
Well,
D&D.
he's been playing, and also I'm thoroughly impressed that you've been playing D&D longer than you've been smoking weed, because it was absolutely smoking weed that got me into playing D&D.
Funny, he's been
I
playing
remember-
D&D longer than I've been alive.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? Well, I remember when I was in high school, I got I remember I got baked as fuck, and I on one of my spares, and I went into the school, and that's when I was looking for somewhere just to chill out and read a manga that I had gotten that I was I think it was Soul Hunter, I think, or some shit like that. I can't
Soul
remember.
Eater.
Soul Eater, and so.
Yeah.
Love you, Soul Eater.
And so yeah, it's great. And so basically, I gotta reread that. But anyway, so I was just looking for a classroom to fucking read that in, and I went to a classroom that nice for anybody at home. Curtis just put on a Soul Eater headband, but I mean he's not animating it, but he's got it on in person. But
I'm animating it.
okay, he's gonna animate it. Sweet. but yeah. And anyway, I wanted to go and read. I wanted to go read this, right? And I wanted to find a quiet classroom to do it in. So I went to a classroom of a teacher that I knew who was a pretty cool teacher, and fucking the classroom was a comfortable classroom to sit in. So I went there, and there was this group of strange people there, like a bunch of weird looking people, like weirdos. And I was like, sweet, I love weird people. And so I was just chilling out, and they were over, and they were playing this game. They had a bunch of shit out in front of them and everything else. I was like, you guys playing D&D? Because I'd heard about it, and they were like, yeah, we do a session every lunchtime. And I was like, cool. And so I just kind of hung out and just kind of read my thing and chilled out and stuff, and went there again the next day, and they were doing it again, and they were like, hey, you want to play with us? And I was like, sure. So I fucking jumped in and I started playing with them, and I was baked and loving it, and it was awesome. It was so fun. They were great people. Some of my to this day, some of the best people I've ever met. Some great friends of mine. And I just remember I was what was it Garth Sarian. I was a fucking satyr. I was a satyr rogue, I think.
Yeah.
I think, man, but yeah, man, that was a hell of a character, and man, it was fun. It was amazing, and I just immediately fell in love with it. And I'm impressed that you started smoking weed so long after you started playing D&D, because most people get into D&D and then they're like, okay, D&D is great, but have you ever had D&D on weed, man? That happens within 3 sessions. Someone's like, D&D's great, but have you smoked weed on D&D?
Yeah. Well, I got a later start on smoking weed than most people my age.
Well, you were running
was
for school president, so.
Yeah, but it was just about 2 months before I turned 19, or 2 or 3 months before I turned 19. So it's a much later start than most people are I started smoking weed when I was 13.
Never too late, buds.
No.
There is too early. There is too early, but it's never.
Oh, there is.
There is too early, but it's never too late.
Yeah, but it was mostly the crowds I was hanging out with. I didn't really feel comfortable until much later. So
yeah.
Now,
but yeah.
Now with D&D, are you do you prefer more, or with as much as you've played, do you now prefer the role of a player, or do you more prefer the DM role or the GM role?
It's either or for me. I really enjoy being a player, but I also really enjoy the challenge of being a DM, because I'm pretty much the permanent DM in our group, because I'm the only one that can take everybody's individual backgrounds and just sort of weave them together into a single cohesive story.
Nice.
Yeah.
You and you do you enjoy the story building aspect of it?
the world building.
Yeah,
World building.
I really enjoy the story building part of it.
Nice. Very fun, very fun.
Yeah, and I know that your campaign, you've talked to me a little bit about it in the past and stuff like that, and you said that you've got like a world that you've been working on for a very long period of time, and that it's evolved to be like this sprawling monster of a world with like you've got your own calendar, like you've got your own months, you've got your own cities, you've got your own governments and factions established. Like this is an intense world you've got.
Yeah, well, I've been slowly building it over the years. Like basically, I subscribe to that sentiment of you don't do more than you have to. So, like it all started with this campaign probably in like 2006, and it was basically a keep that they had to defend, and the stories just evolved from there. Most of the people I play with right now, like they have no idea about most of the stuff that's gone on before them.
Yeah, like things that have
Like,
happened already with
there's-
other campaigns and other people.
Yeah. There's only one of the players right now. He's the only one that's been like, I've started playing D&D with him like 22 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So he's been there for the growth of your campaign, and he's seen your world getting bigger.
yeah, it started off with a single map, and then I just keep expanding it, and
Yeah, that's wild, man. And I know I know some people who've put like a lot of work. Like I know some people who do a lot of work into world building and stuff like that, right? But
Yeah.
there's no substitute for time. You know, like there's
Yeah.
no substitute for time. It's one of those things where it's like if you look at like epic book series and stuff like that and everything else, you can create a pretty compelling world in like a 1 or 2 book series or something like that. It's doable. It's very doable.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're like 30 books in and stuff like that, like
Yeah.
some other like the Wheel of Time series or some shit.
oh, definitely the Wheel
Like-
of Time.
like-
That's
Or
that's,
Goosebumps.
Yeah, or Goosebumps. You know, like you know,
Yeah.
like it's one of those things that like the world that you get out of that through the time that it's been like alive,
Yeah.
and growing is it doesn't matter how good you are at creating the world. Like it takes an immense amount of time for that world to feel like it's alive, and it's like Tolkien's
Yeah.
work. So like if you look at Tolkien's works, like that man was a master at world building. He's a master at like linguistics and like that kind of thing. And the
well, he
reason why
created the languages first, and then filled
exactly
in the world. to fit
exactly
it.
yeah, and he filled the world in to fit it, and it's really cool because like there was a sense of time, like there's this sense of scale, like a sense of like it's like the world is lived in, the world has been lived in for like a long time, and even if you start a D&D campaign today where you're like the world is 40,000 years old, and like there's records in the world of it being 40,000 year olds, and there's legends and stuff like that and everything else, it's way different, way more exciting when you've actually had that world for 10 years, and like things that happened 8 years ago are still relevant in today, like in today's campaign. And like you have a direct reference to it, and not only that, but you could probably poke the person on Facebook who fucking who started that legend or whatever, right? Or like started that clan that's now a well-established clan and part of the world, and and through creative chronological jumping, you can say so that like a player in this campaign, like if in the next campaign when it's in the same world, it could be 100 years from now, 200 years from now, so that player is a legend in the world now, what they did and everything else, and that kind of growth, it feels more exciting because it's dynamic growth as opposed to just like planned growth. You're not like Curtis said, those artificial trees that were planted down by his smoke spot. Like you could tell that they were artificial trees, right? They'd never look as good as an actual forest. You'd always know that tree line was planted. Like,
I know which ones were planted and which ones were just sitting there.
Exactly, right? And it's always going to be noticed which parts of it were planted and which parts of it were naturally grown. Because they have that kind of natural vibe. And it's the same with your world, man. The fact that you've had it going for such a long time. It's like, you've probably got some awesome stories for that as well. And I mean, like, I'm sure we'd love to get into, like, the full details of, like, the world and stuff, but we probably don't have too much time left. But
Nah, we actually are running low on time here, so I think we have time for one more bong hit real quick.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
In the
Good.
meantime, while we smoke our bongs, Josh, is there anywhere that the buds, can find you or enjoy the likes of your memery?
Yeah, any content or anything that you may want
Uh,
to give a shout out to. This is your
Amazing.
time to basically shameless plug whatever you feel like doing.
In the
You can shout out
meantime, we'll
people.
blaze it. Tok tok
Yeah.
skabok.
well, I've got a Facebook page that I've been sort of picking away at over time. And you can find my art there. It's Gothic Productions. So, like, it's two separate words. Goth, Hick, Productions.
Oh,
Pick.
nice,
Yeah.
dude. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll have a link down below for that. We'll fire a link down in
Yep.
the description for Budz to click on that and find that. And obviously, if you want as well, Budz at home, you can find Josh on our page, Good Budz podcast page, always sharing those fucking dank ass memes. So hop on there.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure give him a like when you're there, because you're guaranteed to see a post of his. It's either him or Isaac going on
Yeah.
there, right? So
I love to see the stuff shared. So
yeah, absolutely. And and thank you so much once again for being on the show. We really appreciate you coming on, man. It's really great finally like that Curtis can finally get to meet you in person and stuff like that, aside from just enjoying the memery and online stuff, and hopefully be happy to come back again in the future, man. Maybe you can pop back on more D&D and go in more in depth about your world you've got existing.
Oh, for sure. That sounds like a prime idea.
Sweet, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're joined by a kitty. Fantastic.
Yeah.
We love when animals join us on the podcast. There you go. Oh, you cute kitty. Yeah, we always love when animals join us on the podcast. It's great. It's happened a couple times.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
with all that, buds, hopefully you've enjoyed this episode of the Good Buds podcast. We are going to roll one for the road, and we will see you next week.
Later, buds.
Check you later.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share this with all your buds that you see in passing. Just yell at everybody about the Good Buds podcast and about Goth Hick Productions.
Oh, there you go, Shank, remembering your lines.
Just anyway,
All right, later, buds.
buds.